Today, I am talking about The Cousins by Karen M. McManus. If you're not familiar with The Cousins, maybe you're familiar with One of Us is Lying and One of Us is Next. I have read One of Us is Lying. I don't know how far I got into One of Us is Next, but I think she has I know there's a third in that trilogy, but I think she has one more book. Two Can Keep a Secret. So I've read Two Can Keep a Secret, One of Us is Lying, and then The Cousins. I remember enjoying the other two. I don't remember loving them, but I think if I reread them, that would help. The Cousins was so refreshing because I had just finished The Uninvited, which I wanted to love and I couldn't, and then I'd finished another book that I didn't really love, or I didn't really like even. So it was so refreshing to read a book that I could not put down. I almost missed it because it was one of those where I put it on hold on my virtual library app. I didn't realize that I'd gotten it. Then I had to wait because I ran out of time to check it out. Then I was like, I should let them notify me. So I got the notification, I checked out the book, and in terms of narration, it was pretty spot on. I would say I 95% liked it. There were moments where I was like, meh, but on the whole, so well done. As for the story, I love a good mystery. I think I've mentioned that my first introduction to reading was Mary Higgins Clark, and then in conjunction with that was the Boxcar Children. So it feels like going back to my roots, and maybe that's why I enjoy mystery so much, and that's why I enjoy the end of a book, because I can see the weaving because I know where it's going. The story revolves around these three cousins, two girls and a boy. Jonah, Millie, who is the third one, and Aubrey. Jonah, Millie, and Aubrey, they come from a line of family with the surname of Story. The Storys used to be really wealthy, they lost their wealth, and then their grandfather helped to rebuild the wealth. He dies, and not long after, the mother disinherits all 4 of her children with the note saying, you know what you did. And she has had nothing to do with them ever since. So we've met Millie. We see her relationship with her mom, not the greatest. Her mom is pretty cold, but her mom has asked her to dinner to tell her that she, as in Millie, received a letter from her grandmother. The grandmother owns a resort. The whole family used to own and live on this resort and work at this resort until obviously the kids get disowned. And now Millie's like, okay, cool, I guess I'll get to know my grandma and maybe we'll get put back into the will. And we meet Aubrey, and Aubrey is a little bit more of a mystery. We know something's going on with her, something's going on with her family, but we don't know quite what it is. And we never actually meet Jonah. We hear about them messaging with him, and he's kind of a weird dude who would rather go to science camp but can't because he has to come to this resort for the summer because his dad wants him to get them back into the mother's good graces. Millie's like, let's see what this is. Aubrey is kind of the most genuine of them all, although I preferred Millie because I thought Aubrey was a little boring. I questioned her role in the book until later on, almost to the end. Millie is descendant from the only daughter, Allison. Aubrey, her dad is Anders. Jonah, his dad is Adam. And then there's a third brother whose name is Archer. And Archer, we learn he's a drunk and nobody really has anything to do with him. They don't really know where he is. We get the Millie, we get the Aubrey, and then we get a third perspective, and that is Allison from when Allison was 18. 13. So we do get some background because there's kind of the big mystery of, you know what you did. So what did they do? And we get it from Allison's perspective. Anyways, before I get into that, the three show up. And there's this weird incestual attraction between Millie and Jonah, which should clue us all into the fact of the first big reveal. And that is, so I'm going to get into this real fast. Jonah's not actually Jonah. Jonah is a different Jonah. Their cousin Jonah got a scholarship to science camp and went there. And then he is paying his classmate Jonah to impersonate him because he doesn't really believe that anything good is going to come from this summer at the resort, but his dad wants him to do it, so there we go. Millie and Jonah are fighting their feelings for each other because everybody thinks they're cousins, but they arrive on the island and they show up to registration, and the guy's like, oh, Story, you know what, the lady who owns this place, her last name is Story, what, like, that'd be so funny if you were related. And they're like, we are related, we got letters, and nobody knows that these kids are showing up. It turns out that the guy who had sent the letters is no longer employed there. So the new dude in his place is like, well, I'll go get your grandma. And then the grandma shows up, and then she's like, okay, see you later. And she goes off to Boston or something, and she's too sick, she's too busy, she's too whatever. So they don't see her. They're going along, and I can't remember what comes first, the chicken or the egg. There is a guy named, is it Chaz? I think it's Chaz. There's a bartender. So the three stories are given pretty cushy jobs. Millie and Jonah work at restaurants, and one of the bartenders at Jonah's restaurant is this guy named Chaz. Chaz stops showing up for work, and we learn it's because he's an alcoholic, and so he's just on the sauce. The trio goes to a local bar on their night off. The band is playing, and Chaz is in the band. And the singer says, hey, you know what? This member of our band wants to sing a song. Chaz gets up and sings a familial song. Millie is my favorite because a girl has got it going on. Like, she is so quick. She realizes that Chaz is their long lost uncle, Archer. Then she approaches him and she's like, how could I not have known? In any case, oh, bummer, I missed my Duolingo. He admits that he sent the letters. He had been involved with the guy who worked for their grandmother, and he convinced the guy to send these letters. Things happen. So then people start dying. Well, I guess maybe they don't start dying, but they have been dying. And there's one character who was the family doctor back in the day. He is supposed to meet up with Archer because he had recognized Archer. He knew Archer was a Story. So they're supposed to meet up only for him to wind up drowned in the pond in his backyard. It's chalked up to his dementia. His granddaughter, and I thought she was going to play a bigger part because she's a journalist, and she had wanted to do some exposés on the stories. Honestly, nothing happens. All of the news articles that are leaked by Archer, but I thought she was gonna be some conniving little journalist who's sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. She is helpful because she delivers certain documents to Archer and the kids that get them to realize that there are other people at play in this whole mystery, and that there are other motives behind why Millicent would have disowned her children. And that would be this girl named Kaylee. What we learn with Allison's point of view is that Millicent has this right-hand woman named Paula. And Paula has a son named Matt. Matt and Anders have this enmity between them because Anders and Adam are jerks. They are overprivileged, self-indulgent jerks who think that they can have whatever they want and that the world belongs to them. So he's had this on again, off again relationship with Kaylee, and then she dumps him for Matt. At the beginning of the book, with Allison's perspective, she has this little run-in with Matt. We seem to have a romance blooming. The story kids go to a local party. She sleeps with Matt. She gets pregnant. Then he rejects her for Kaylee. And this is something I didn't quite understand. And I thought that it would have personally helped me connect more to the whole problem behind everything if the relationship between him and Allison had actually been something. But I guess he just wanted to get into her pants. When Allison realizes that she's pregnant, she confides in Anders. Don't really know why. For some reason, she couldn't tell Archer, and she wasn't going to tell Adam, so she took a chance on Anders. So they approach Matt, and before Allison can tell him anything, he rejects her. He walks out the door straight into Kaylee's arms, and now both Allison and Anders are heartbroken, and then Allison has a miscarriage, like right on the spot. I thought that could have taken a little longer. We have known throughout the book that Kaylee had died, so I'm thinking this is what they did. Somehow they caused her death, only to realize she hadn't died until after they were disowned. Like, the timeline doesn't line up that they could have caused her death and then that could have caused their disownment. Big spoiler of it all, okay? We are getting to the heart of the matter here. That same summer, Anders and Adam trick Matt, who is extremely drunk from another party, into going into the ocean. They say, Kaylee got sucked away, we need your help, and it's a terrible storm, and so he ends up drowning. Allison walks up kind of at the tail end of this. So she wasn't part of it, but she was an accessory after the fact. Kaylee is killed because, dun dun dun, I mean, this was kind of genius. Their father had died because of a heart defect. The mother, that Millicent, had the same problem. Aubrey and Millie and Jonah are like, how in the world could she have survived 20 odd more years when she was diagnosed a year after the grandfather had died? What happened was, if you're swimming along here with me, Millicent did die. Paula took her place, enlisted her sister to take her place, and she pretended to be Millicent for the next 2 decades. And she is the one in league with the family lawyer, because they're just all greedy people. And then because the doctor was a gambler with gambling debts, they convinced him to fake documents. And so this is the stuff that he wanted to talk to Archer about and apologize to Archer, because Archer played no part. Archer was innocent, and he was just like, you didn't deserve this, Archer, and nobody knows that meant. Anywho, so what they did was Kaylee, I guess she was back on with Anders, visited him at school. He told her what they did. She comes home. She tells Millicent / Paula. And Paula is like, she has Kaylee killed. So this whole time we're thinking that Kaylee is at the crux of the problem. And I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, it was Allison, Anders, and Adam, or at least Allison. Like, it was one of these kids at fault for Kaylee's death. And it wasn't any of them. It was Millicent / the lawyer whose name I can never remember. Even as I was listening to this book, I kept telling myself, Beth, remember his name, and I never could. The final reveal, before all this, let me go back a little bit. There is this party. There's this annual party that Millicent is throwing. The cousins are invited. They show up. Millie and Jonah get caught making out, only for then Adam to show up. I think Adam is Jonah's dad. Adam or Anders. That guy shows up. says, okay, that's not my son. This kid here is my son. That guy is a liar. Everybody here is a liar. Jonah is gonna get shipped back off. They're like, here, you have one free night at a hotel. Here's your plane ticket. You miss it, that's your fault. He gets together with Archer, only to find that the two girls are getting together with Archer, and they're all gonna expose the plot. After all of this happens, Millicent requests Aubrey to come to the house to talk to her. While there, Aubrey steals a key card to the house. She had noticed something, that when she was having drinks with Millicent, I think it was coffee or tea, something hot got spilled, and Millicent took off her gloves. A small detail that Aubrey realizes later is that her grandmother is missing a trademark birthmark, the one that they share. And she realizes Millicent's not Millicent. She goes off, because this is what every 17-year-old does, right? She goes off to confront Millicent, only for Millicent to know that she's there. Millicent is gonna kill her when Archer shows up. Millicent sends her sister to essentially set fire to the estate. As they escape, Millicent dies, but Archer and Aubrey get out. What they learn. So we're thinking now people are back in the will because the fraud has been revealed. Nothing is insured. That the doctor, that the lawyer, and that Paula have spent every last cent. Millie is pretty convinced that Paula's sister, that the fake Paula, or that Paula and the fake Paula had squirreled money away in like an offshore account, because the sister gets away. And so she's like, I'm pretty sure she's living on something. In the end, this money that all the siblings had been vying for and hoping to get, there's nothing left. The house isn't insured, now it's burned down, so you're not getting anything from that. Anything inside the house, worth nothing. The coffers are dry. All of the other homes are near foreclosure, and so it's quite interesting. I was both happy and sad about that, because you felt like the cousins went through enough. Maybe not their parents, like maybe Archer. They went through so much, yet they get nothing in the end. At the same time, I like that they get nothing, because we're really used to our protagonist coming out roses. So it was refreshing. This reminds me, the fake Jonah essentially agrees to the real Jonah's plan, because his dad, alright, so I must have had it wrong the entire time. Aubrey's dad is Adam. Jonah's dad is Anders. Anders had been an investor or like a hedge fund manager. He worked with money. It was revealed that he was involved in a Ponzi scheme of sorts, although he was never convicted of it. But he did lose all of fake Jonah's family's money. So fake Jonah is in it for revenge. This is something that I didn't quite buy, was that Millie gets upset after she learns his motivation. Why does his motivation matter? He essentially told her the truth about what he was doing. He doesn't tell all the truth, but does she deserve to know all of the truth? I'll let you decide. Because Jonah, his dad had taken all of his college money, all the money that Jonah had saved up for college had been lost. Along with that, the family business was going under. Well, we see at the end, the family business is getting back on its feet. Jonah and Millie are together. Aubrey, the mystery behind Aubrey's family is that her dad had cheated on her mom with her swim coach, and he had gotten the swim coach pregnant. Now we see that Aubrey has a new baby brother, and even if she doesn't like her dad or her stepmom, she still loves her brother. She had gotten rid of her toxic boyfriend, Thomas, which, again, except for establishing that she's a pushover in the beginning, I don't feel like he warranted mention in this book. Especially because Aubrey's evolution, she was really boring. I didn't quite see a need for her. Obviously, at the end, she became a key player. In a sense, she was the voice of reason the whole time. But I thought that things with her could have developed faster. Millie, though, I just think Millie is all that in a bag of chips. I loved her from the beginning. Girl knew what she wanted. She didn't take no for an answer. And like, if she thought something was rotten in the state of Denmark, she went for it and she figured out what was wrong. Millie is going to Brown. I think Jonah might be going to Brown. In any case, they're both going to be in New York, and then they're trying to convince Aubrey to come to Brown. So it's really cool how they did not know each other. I mean, obviously Jonah wasn't even their real cousin, but I thought it was awesome to see how these cousins, who because of circumstances never got to know each other, then became really close. They developed this really great bond that they were able to carry through further into their lives. I thought that the whole Matt angle, like basically the crux of the novel, the reason that there are any problems is because of Matt and because of his death. I honestly didn't care. Because when we first meet him, he seems like a pretty stand-up guy. You get the sense that it's the whole Romeo Juliet, wrong side of the track sort of deal, where she's not supposed to like him, but he likes her, and then she just says, you know what, forget it, I do like him, only to find out that she meant nothing to him. Maybe I just had the wrong impression from the get-go. Because almost immediately you realize he's a jerk, because he won't return any of her phone calls. And I kind of wish that she hadn't lost the baby, because I thought that would have been another added dynamic. Like, what happened to the baby? How does the baby fit into this? How did Paula not know she's got a grandkid out there? I thought that was a really interesting angle that McManus just dropped like a hot potato. It served a purpose, and it didn't need to be there anymore, so she just had Allison have a miscarriage, and I was like, okay. I was reading someone else's review, and they talked about a romance that they didn't think was necessary. And I'm assuming they're talking about Jonah and Millie. And on one hand, I agree. I did like how the will they, won't they propelled the novel forward. Like, how are we going to deal with our feelings for each other? And that is what made their relationship interesting, was the forbiddenness of it all. But then, just like so, like with the Matt thing, all of a sudden it's solved, but then all of a sudden it's a problem. Where are we going from here? As soon as they were allowed to be together, I kind of didn't care anymore. This just sounds terrible. I did enjoy the fact that actually, maybe we did get Jonah's perspective. We did. I'm so wrong. What is wrong with me? Oh, it's because it's almost 1 a.m. That's what's wrong with me. We did get Jonah's perspective because we see both of them recognizing that they are noticing the other, but they're like, I can't do it. And I really, really liked, I need to stop saying really, that's not a good word to use, how in the beginning, the things he says are both true and untrue, where they both make you feel like he's Jonah, but in retrospect, you realize they refer to something completely different. And I liked that we get a mystery early on. Not only the whole, you know what you did, but they're on the ferry coming from the airport to the resort, and he gets a message from this mysterious JT. So we're like, who's JT? JT turns out to be their cousin Jonah. I was really surprised that we learned the mystery behind who Jonah was so quickly. I wish that we'd gotten more of that mystery. I almost forgot about that mystery. I did forget about the mystery of who's JT? What is Jonah hiding? Because it wasn't mentioned enough to make it important. And then we come out with this huge reveal that Jonah's not Jonah. And I'm like, didn't see that coming. But I think the bigger problem is I didn't expect to not see it coming. My other thing is we learned that Paula has been pretending to be Millicent. And my thought is that she had work done to make her resemble Millicent. I think she got away with it for so long because she stayed away from the public eye. I loved it. I loved that Millicent died and that somebody had been in her place and getting away with it. But how? No wonder she had to cut off contact with the kids, because the kids would know that wasn't their mother. But on that note, I thought it was a little too convenient that both parents suffered from the same heart condition. I think it was an enlarged heart or something. I don't know the statistics on that. I don't know how many people actually suffer from it. But it almost felt like, yes, we're related. And so we have the same heart defect, and that's why we die. Which makes the whole thing that much grosser. I saw why McManus did it. Because the doctor, I think his name was Baxter. So Dr. Baxter had left a coroner's report about Millicent. But Archer is like, but this is what my dad suffered from. So again, we're getting that question of, who are we really talking about here? So yeah, I saw why she had them have the same condition, but I felt like maybe she could have made it something, in my opinion, that was a bit more prevalent of a problem, because it came across to me as, oh wow, this is a really rare condition. So then both parents have it? Whatever. The cousins. When I first started listening to this book, my first thought was, wow, this reminds me of E. Lockhart's We Were Liars. And my second thought was, oh crap, I hope it's not nearly as bad as We Were Liars. I saw in someone else's review that that's exactly what they likened this to, so I'm not completely crazy, but it's so much better. So much better. So if you were thinking, oh, this is going to be another one of that book, same but different. If you didn't like that book, you will probably like this book. If you did like that book, you'll probably still like this book. The Cousins was a great book, and that is writing that I aspire to. So Karen McManus, if you're watching, thank you for writing something I thoroughly enjoyed and that I want to emulate. I will see you later. Bye.